Hello, welcome to the reacting to Force 13 animations. We are on the 2023 Eastern Pacific hurricane season, and that is because of a request. I'm compiling some of the requests that were already given, so this is one of the ones that was requested. So without further ado, let's get straight into the animation. Of course, 2015.
On Major Hurricane Patricia, which is
Patricia.
off the coast of Mexico with winds of 200 miles per hour, and we expect this
Animation goes purple, but it's interesting.
Category 5 landfall.
2013. This is honestly, I kind of actually learned this one through this sort of history. Like, this is really good history and like demonstration of animation. Like, you can learn a lot from it. And so a long time ago. But this is Pauline. Was Manuel, one of the names I'm forgetting. Manuel, yeah, okay. 2013. There's also that one tropical storm in the other season. What questions remain? Would these records be broken in the coming years as tropical activity ramps up? That's the big question for every Eastern Pacific season, really. But yeah, there's that one tropical storm for like a long time ago which impacted like El Salvador as a tropical storm, and I'm gonna see that one as well. Like, I want to refresh my memory on that one. I'm gonna go in with like a blank vision of this season, just to see, I want to see as if I saw it for the first time. Because obviously I saw the entire season. I tracked the entire season, of course. So, but it's been quite a while. So, Hurricane Adrian. It's just late June already, and Beatrice, another hurricane already. Category 2 Adrian, dual hurricane landfall. Beatrice was Harold is the coast that makes the landfall there. I think one of the most fascinating things about this season I was going to say is that I'll do less pauses this time, but one of the most interesting things is how many major hurricanes there are. The sheer density of major hurricanes is remarkable. Like, even this season was expected to be like this, but it's just not been anywhere near that season. It's truly remarkable how this season had, and in terms of intensity, reflecting the intensity particularly. Yeah, paralleling landfall there on Beatrice. I think also just the sheer number of just hurricanes, less just tropical storm activity in the season. Like, we got Calvin in the first major, between 125 degrees west, and it's become a major hurricane already mid-July, and now it's moving towards the central Pacific. It's now weakened, and is it going to re-strengthen? I cannot quite remember. No, it looks like, okay, now it's partially re-strengthened and it's weakened again. Low level circulation exposed, and that's late July. 04E. I have to say the music's incredible as well, but 04E, this is unnamed. This season had Greg, of course, I can't forget that. I'll be. Yeah, that's just something that can't be forgotten. And Atlantic AOI here, that's crossed as a part of the CAG circulation. This is another situation where you got another cross basin tropical cyclone. This is Dora. Actually, I completely forgot that but Dora is one of the most like incredible tropical cyclones in the TC tracks, the cyclone history, because you have this tropical wave. This actually originates from AEW, and that sort of wave progressed all the way across between the African tropics into the Cabo Verde, across the entire MDR, through the entire Central Caribbean, into the CAG, now cross basin, and now it's here, already making distance and intensifying rapidly in the Eastern Pacific. So the first major peak there, another major peak here, and then another one. Eugene at the same time. This is when it's reached near peak intensity, Dora, 135 knots. I cannot quite remember if it's recon for Dora, but yeah, category 4 for a very long time. Huge ace in recon through the entire Eastern Pacific into the Central Pacific, and then it becomes Typhoon Dora, I'm pretty sure, crosses into the Western Pacific. One of the most insane tracks for any tropical cyclone ever. Pretty much ever, yeah. I mean, Fernando rapidly intensifying tropical cyclone again. There's Greg. Greg's perhaps considered the most troll tropical cyclones because it formed on the exact latitude 140 degrees west, where they were changing over back into the name of the Central Pacific names. And at this point in time, it had been years until a Central Pacific name had been used, so everyone was expecting the return of a Central Pacific name. And the biggest troll of the century, and Greg gets named instead because it formed exactly at that latitude rather than going into the Central Pacific, where the NHC Pacific would then intervene, or Central Pacific would intervene. Hillary, okay, that caused another tropical cyclone, rapidly intensifying back to that Category 4 to Category 4. Now, Hillary, another tropical cyclone, incredible track, like the most influential sort of northerly tropical cyclone that we can think of in recent times, until like we had Nora, the 1997, but the other tropical cyclones as well. But this is the most influential one, really. You see true bulletins, and that's sort of real time within the 2020s. You see these like just a rare type of bulletin that you don't see at sea, moving parallel in the coast, Category 4 actually approaching the Baja as well, so it's quite high latitudinal intensity and supporting. And the tropical cyclone, very favourable conditions, and it's able to retain that even just a Category 1 hurricane strength for a long time. And this is a huge isotherm difference once you reach 25 degrees north. The temperature rapidly drops off between 26 to 23 because you have the permanent, sort of semi-permanent North Pacific high ridge here, which is one reason. And obviously then you have the more significant sort of thermohaline circulation, which is bringing in the cold water, and that these sort of feedbacks, like the Ekman feedbacks, these continue to supply cold water. You get this constant, almost upwelling, like which suppresses sea surface temperatures. Of course, this year being the opposite, it's not been like record breaking, so you've had a very favourable. Actually, it's not even opposite because it's very similar to this season, because this season was also very favourable. But this season, really, like this season right now, is the most that's ever been. But of course, there's no tropical cyclones really utilised it yet at this point, which is really interesting because there's expected to be some more activity. We just already had a Central Pacific system. Another one's expecting the Central Pacific to be named potentially 2 Central Pacific systems and Eastern Pacific. So it's interesting. But yeah, Hillary, Category 2 intensity, makes hurricane-based landfall, and tropical storm doesn't make a landfall, just tropical storm. It would have been really interesting if it actually made a tropical storm landfall into San Diego, California, near Tijuana region. But you can see here, tropical storm in the Great Basin in Nevada, which is obviously very rare. But then you can also just keep tracing it. So at this point, it becomes extratropical, but between that point, it actually becomes a tropical depression. So it technically reaches northern Nevada as a tropical depression before becoming extratropical into Idaho, and still remnants of it all the way up into Montana. Very influential and very unique track. So you can see Dora that loop back in. Fernando's now weakened. New tropical cyclone AOI forming here. I cannot remember the name. It's Owen, and this is one of the weaker tropical cyclones, I think. Yeah, because of the latitudinal point. It's when these tropical cyclones, they sort of nudge up into the isotherm, because the isotherm's not one single perfect horizontal point. It fluctuates, and when you have these sort of northerly nudges, the tropical cyclone that's become too far north now, and also the shear rapidly increases. You have a lot of southeasterly shear motion, but then you also have like quite rapid changes. You have the southerly motion and the easterly motion. These sort of vectors really disrupt the low level circulation, and that's essentially what happened there. You can see how it started drifting as well. So it's a big difference between even just 5 degrees north of latitudes in the Eastern Pacific. You have like a pristine point, like a really low latitude, and you have like a really high, or the high latitudes, the middle ones, and then the higher ones, and then yeah, certain variations in the Central Pacific. You can have a tropical cyclone that moves much farther north than the Eastern Pacific, and that still retains a Category 1 intensity. That's happened a lot of times, whereas in the Eastern Pacific, of course, it's not really happened. And of course, Hillary's that sort of an exception, but in the Central Pacific, the isotherms push much farther north. You have much more favourable pattern, and you have different patterns where actually the divergence is supporting a tropical cyclone enhances the outflow, and that sort of release of heat, that latent heat, is really effective in actually sustaining high latitude Category 1 intensity tropical cyclones. like last year. So okay, and now we have Yova in early September season, and of course extremely rapid intensification. That's literally what it's called, because this tropical cyclone intensified about 110. Because this is one of these occasions where actually, because of the criteria of the way rapid intensification is used, typically with miles per hour, so you have like 24 miles per hour, like 24 millimars, or was it miles per hour? But in that sort of time frame, I think it's 24 hours. But you have, and then extremely rapid, which is 80 miles per hour in that same time frame. I'm pretty sure it's 24 hours, and then you have this tropical cyclone, which obviously far supersede that at about 110 miles per hour, and so one of the most rapidly intensifying, and also becomes greatly underestimated in its official bulletin. It becomes its estimate is 140 knots, I think, 100. Yeah, and actually, its actual intensity, really, by reanalysis, is around 160 knots, and obviously much lower pressure as a result. Of course, it weakens very quickly as well. Very impressive how it forms, but it weakens at the same time. And it's because of that really just sharp west-northwest. No, not even any one, but it's very interesting how it's just a perfect west-northwest. It's just a line that cuts across the basin. But it also cut at almost the exact same time as Lee, which is Category 5. So it's very interesting to see simultaneous basin to basin, like just neighbouring basin, Atlantic, Eastern Pacific, Lee and Yova at the same time, both actually extremely rapid intensification with both of them. Yeah, very interesting, because 2023 East Atlantic was also very record breaking. Now the music's changed. This is waiting for the hurricane. I think this is what the track is. Of course, this is now playing here. Oh wait, it's faraway shots. Of course, I don't remember the actual names, but that is it. 12E becomes a tropical. This is sort of the weak phase where you have some weaker tropical cyclones, which has not been that common all too far in this season. Clearly, along for Category 4 tropical cyclones. But yeah, these tropical cyclones are really forming a bit far west, where the shear is now increasing, the latitudes a bit higher. You can see all these tropical cyclones. This phase distinctly does not support tropical cyclones, particularly due to the tropical cyclone location. Now we've entered the period. I think this is going to be Norman, I think, or Lydia. Actually, this is Lydia, and now this is also another tropical cyclone that's highly forgotten. Actually, really forgotten. But this tropical cyclone was really interesting because the track is extremely erratic, and also because it's underestimated huge does as well. So you had Max, which made a big tropical storm landfall, and you had Lydia, which was moving west. And there's actually a couple of late season examples. This happens mainly late season. This is October. It's like matching that sort of climatology where this could happen. But you have this westerly track. It loops and it goes back due easterly, but because that due easterly track completely changes the intensity, because now it's entering extremely high oceanic heat content, which is right along the coast, and it's also moving into a much favourable shear environment, and also the circulation. It's able to have its outflow channels enhanced greatly. The track before would have been somewhat favourable, but into this late season it becomes very high shear environment. So you've got small pockets, and going back to the coast is one of the most favourable conditions in this point in the season. Yeah, of most tropical cyclones at this point, the big ones really form around the coast, and it's exactly what happened. It exploded rapidly to Category 4, luckily in the middle of nowhere, in the desert. But yeah, I mean, rapidly intensifying. No forecast really saw this. It was really interesting to see that actually happen. Yeah, I mean, when it did happen. And Norma as well, another back-to-back rapidly intensifying tropical cyclone, comes Category 4 pretty quickly. It weakens, approaching just very close to Baja. That's still a Category 1 impact. And then now we have, I mean, that's a very intense phase right there. You've got back-to-back Category 4, and now, of course, the big tropical cyclone. But I want to share my perspective, at least, where originally when I saw Otis the day of when it was happening, it was like a weak tropical storm. I mean, you can see how quickly it's intensifying, but even at that time, it was still a tropical storm. I wasn't thinking too much of it. I sort of, just before I was going to, like, obviously go to sleep, I saw the bulletins. I had a feeling that it was just like peculiar. It's like interesting. This tropical storm that's forming in this sort of location. I wasn't really suspecting the intensity rather, but I was suspecting the environmental conditions that actually there could have been reached like a high intensity. That's the only thing I really had in suspect, and that suspect actually did come in the biggest to fruition into one of the most infamous tropical cyclone forecasting errors, model errors, rapid intensification, change of perspective. This near coast environment, I'm telling you, is extremely volatile, especially into October. Like this is like unbelievably volatile. Almost no basin even has it like this. This is comparable to the PER, or tropical cyclone approach that and rapidly changes. Its complete structure just completely changes from whatever its currently looks like. The current perspective of tropical cyclone in these sort of regions has no real relevance to the final product of it. And you can see here, there's not even much. There's only 5 degrees north latitude at least, and you got like as it approaches close, and then got around 6, maybe 7 degrees just about until it reaches landfall past. So that's too late then. So about 6 degrees north only. It's moving straight, basically just straight north into these isotherms and rapidly intensifies. So yeah, I mean, of course, Otis exploded. At Category 1 there, Category 5 within that time frame, and it becomes Category 5 on landfall. So I mean, all this happens very quickly. So these hours intervals are a bit hard to detect. But yeah, I mean, I think does it intensify Category 5 within 12 hours? I think something extremely, like an extreme stat like that exists on this. So actually, I think what happened with Yova is Yova had a rapid intensification of 115 miles per hour for 24 hours. Otis has 110 miles per hour, 24 hours, but I think Otis has a higher I think potentially, I think it might have a higher milliwatt drop. I mean, because in just 12 hours, it intensified a great amount, and that's one of the things about it become Category 5, and it reaches 145 knots just before landfall, and becomes 140 knots on landfall. Obviously, the damage is extreme. It's not really seen. I mean, it's never really been seen like this, because this is the only true. At least obviously there's other suspect examples, but this is the true only example of a Category 5 landfall in the entire basins. Well, yeah, I mean, at least the of an analysis. The other suspect ones have not really been confirmed, etc. This is the one only and true one, and the effects have been seen for the first time. Makes landfall directly over Acapulco, which is obviously a very vulnerable region, and does massive amounts of damage as a result. And now you can see, like, yeah, there you go, Pilar, and this is another example I was thinking of. I was talking about Lydia. Is that I mean, this one's much farther south at this point. Is favouring with these very low latitudes, which I think the tropical cyclone this year also exhibited the same thing, extremely low latitudes. But yeah, I mean, again, what due westerly moves east or moves east and to west, there's these sort of conditions where the tropical cyclone has no propensity to be pulled polewards. So it moves easterly and moves due west. It could have made a quite rare landfall into that region, toward even just near Nicaragua, of course, closer towards Honduras, which the tropical cyclone this year did do. Yeah, so achieved on the rare feats of a low latitude tropical cyclone landfall, proving that it is possible, like, in vulnerability for this part of the Pacific side of the east of it. Because in the Atlantic it's slightly more possible. But yeah, I mean, it's just barely 10 degrees north. But it's interesting though, because like 10 degrees north is considered very light latitudes for these sort of basins, but obviously in the Pacific, 10 degrees north is actually, like, I mean, that basin is obviously one of the most extreme basins out there. So it's very different when it comes to northerly latitudes, especially again, the Indian Ocean basin supports very low latitudes as well, especially again the Australian basin. Huge extreme differences with the SFTs as a result of tropical cyclones forming very extreme conditions latitudinally and intensification wise. These are very low ACE but very high rapid intensification type tropical cyclones. It's the only real way to sort of explain that. And we had Ramon at the end of the season. At this point, it reached the letter R. Like, this is a massive amount of activity, really. and they use every single letter as well. So 167 ace, that's quite a lot of ace. That is. Yes, at least okay, so 4 states also have the exact same agreement here. I mean, technically true, that is as well. You can see Otis right there in the loop, you can see how extremely rapidly intensifies, and weakens is actually one of those interesting things as well to mention, should have mentioned, is how extremely rapidly it weakens. It, from that category 5, it becomes a category 5 to the tropical storm. It's like in a finger snap, really. The terrain is so extreme. It's like almost none other. It's not even like not even the Pacific has this sort of effect. Like these tropical cyclones here got completely torn apart the landmass itself, and you can see that. You can see how far north it's going. Still in the Dora, of course. Actually, Dora also did get retired because it also caused indirectly the Hawaiian was the Maui wildfire, because that was the indirect. It indirectly injected the necessary. I mean, it did indirectly affect the wildfire conditions. It spread the winds needed in a very dry conditions, which whatever spark had gone off had massively been amplified with Dora to the south. Originally, I had not thought which tropical cyclone it was, but then they said the cause tropical cyclone, and I realized it was Dora. But yeah, Dora, very high pressure for the intensity, 935 millibars. Yova 903, Otis 923. But yeah, 2 category 5s actually. But yeah, I mean category 5s are not so common in the extreme Pacific. 2 or 3 is considered quite a lot. I mean, currently we have 1 category 5 in this season. Most seasons only have like 1. Some seasons don't even have 1. Like last year, I don't think they had, but Otis massively impacted. I would say it's probably the most significant tropical cyclone landfall. And really, it could be the most the most damaging on record. But in terms of significance, just under that of the 1959, the one that we just saw, the Great 1959 hurricane. I mean, you see the damage is extreme. Damage is actually very high for Hillary as well. There's 2 high risks in the WPC outlook. They're sort of in remote regions. It's obviously very interesting to see Reed chase that in the southwest, I mean far southwest into California, and chasing these mud flows in these high risks. Yeah, it's really interesting to see that the different locations. You just really don't get to see often at all, so you get to appreciate more. Yeah, seasonal records. I like that they have these here as well, because it's hard to remember. But of course, the intensity mentioned. Then this is Pauline 997. And you got the intensifications. So they have Otis at 100 miles per hour actually. So it's not 110. Makes sense. I mean, it could be higher, but I'm not really sure what it would be. Lydia is the 3rd strongest landfall on record. Tied, yeah, and then unfortunately in the middle of pretty much nowhere, which is one of the things from Mexico, is both Pacific Atlantic side. You have tropical cyclones like this, and you have like Anita. The tropical cyclones are so intense, but they just don't. They make landfall in the most remote regions. Most other basins don't have this sort of remoteness to it. But yeah, and Nora, of course, tropical storm warning issuance for California record, which is actually really interesting. And first CPAC, EPAC, CPAC, and WPAC, which is storm since Hector 2018. So it looks like Hector actually was the other one. I actually didn't know that. I thought Hector was just mainly Eastern Pacific to Central Pacific, but that does make sense because it was a long track tropical cyclone. One of the latest starts to season on record. I mean, a lot of seasons recent years, at least in the 2020s, have been very late season starters. You look at 2024. Even last year, I think last year was actually really late. I think last year was the latest on record. With Adrian, highest ACE values since 2018. Of course, 2018 we know despite El Nino present, ratio between named storm and major quite low. But yeah, and this is the point that central cyclones were identified as major hurricane status, well above the average. Like that's almost half the tropical cyclones to a major, which is like astounding. Like it's hard to understand what that means. Like you can see it through a bit like the season. It's just back to back tropical cyclones on high intensities. But yeah, crazy season. I mean, it really is. Yeah, that I'll see you in the next animation.